Hello and welcome back, and I bring good news. As you can probably tell up on the top of the screen there, we have managed to climb through silver and reach gold 5. Now, the reason I'm doing this and sort of commentating after the fact instead of showing up all the games is because I have decided I want to give this a try. And I think I mentioned this in the last video. I want to play through the rank and then do a bit of a replay review. Here it is. So not all the games are going to be good. A lot of them, sometimes you encounter a very difficult matchup, and it's just sort of a blowout. Sometimes you just go up against a deck that didn't do anything and you just blow them out as well. So there's going to be a lot of games like that on your climb. Sometimes people just disconnect, and so a lot of those games just aren't worth showing, right? The one thing that I really had a difficult time with, outside of just strong decks, like facing decks that are, in terms of power level, was just better than my ninja deck. There wasn't too much I could do. I will say that the new cards that have been released, there's a new archetype that's out. There's a new series of cards called Typhoon. I ran into this once or twice, and it's really difficult to deal with. So if we continue to run into this further on the ladder, it's going to make this very difficult because our deck is very back row focused, and this strategy revolves around adding back row removal to their hand like multiple times throughout their turn, like every single turn. That's just sort of its gimmick. And so I ran into that, and it was really tough. I wouldn't say it was, I even got blown out by it entirely. I felt like I still had a little bit of game against it, but it's definitely probably the hardest counter outside of just having a power level way above my deck. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling, and I'm going to go over these replays. And it's just to sort of show off a little bit about what the deck can do. I am trying to give you a guide onto the ranked ladder, but also specifically teaching you a little bit about this ninja deck and the plays it's capable of. That's kind of what I want to do here. So, opening play, opening up Hanzo is very nice. We did get Mulcharmied, and off the Mulcharmy, he drew an Ash. It's unfortunate, but we do already have most of the cards we want. I would prefer that he Ash the Hanzo to stop a search for cards that we pretty much already wanted to search. And he won't have the Ash for something like Dancing Leaves. We want to book... so Raid Raptors tends to be an Xyz focused deck. And the Xyz monsters is ones where those levels need to be the same on the field. So when I notice, I have that knowledge base. When I notice 2 4s on the field, okay, he's probably about to Xyz summon. I can book his monsters. Flip, by book I mean flip them both face down. And to stop that summon. This would also stop a link summon. And that's all that you can really do with those 2 monsters on the field at that time. And during the end phase, I'm able to use Notebook of Mystery. We want to activate it now so that if we have another copy next turn, we can activate it again and get the maximum amount of value. So we're able to flip the Hanzo. Geo can pop a card when something is flipped on our field, and we get a search. One thing that you want to do, this is an interaction I can talk about. It's going to get a little bit complicated, but this is probably important to explain. When you have 2 things that want to activate at the same time, you can decide the order that they activate in. And what we want to do is have a look at this card. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of the following effects, add a card from deck to hand, for example, he could Ash our Hanzo search. That's something you can do, but if we stack our effects to go Hanzo and then Geo effect, you can't Ash the Hanzo. All you can do is respond to the Geo effect. And you can't Ash a Geo effect because it's not any one of these three things. Whereas if we stacked it Geo and then Hanzo, you could Ash because it's directly responding to the most recent thing to happen in the chain. You won't be able to activate Mystery this turn because when you get a card back off of the field spell, it's not activatable on the same turn you add it back. We develop quite a field here, but unfortunately we do get Nibiru'd. So we do have follow-up plays from the Nibiru. We were able to Dancing Leaves back some of our resources. We did lose a lot off of the Nibiru, but through the Dancing Leaves, through the field spell, this card can add itself back to hand. You can only use one of the effects and only once per turn. So if you use the Tribute a Monster Summon from Deck effect, you can't add it back on the same turn. You would need to wait till the next turn. The recovery on this deck is going to be pretty good, and you're going to kind of see it here. Even though our field got wiped, we're getting back our resources. When he activated that, we chained our duplication and tributed off our Geo. So we still got the Geo effect to flip his monsters, and then we took it off the field, so this had nothing to negate. And so the effect went through, and we went +2 off of that. Duplication is really good to use on your higher level ninjas, because you can summon the most amount of monsters from the deck. The levels need to line up with the level of the thing you tribute. 8, and we have 4, 3, and 1. And as you can see, we've recovered very well from losing 4 monsters with one of their cards. Even though they did that, we are still so far up on card advantage because of the resources you can generate. That's really what this replay is all about. Just the amount of sheer resources you can generate, even through a Nibiru. We're still so far up on cards. So this is our second replay. I have 4 replays in total. This is our second one. Our hand is much less ideal. The one thing we do have going for us is that these are different types, and so we can summon Maizen. So he had a very minimal turn themselves. They just set and passed, so their hand is perhaps unideal. When decks tend to do that, they tend to just have a lot of hand trap interaction, or they are perhaps they're sitting on a hand similar to ours. A lot of the cards don't do a whole lot, don't achieve a whole lot. This is another sort of one of our recovery tools. When you banish off of this effect, you can banish a ninja, target a card on the field, destroy it. You want to be a little bit selective about what you banish, because when this card gets sent from field to graveyard, you can add that back to your hand or summon it to the field. So you want to pick a more ideal target that you would want to recover, because when this gets outed, you can get that back. Now, I do misplay here. I should have chained the Maizen. I did not realize that he had his 3rd spell engraved. It isn't very often that you will want to use your Dancing Leaves to tribute off a monster in a situation where it's being targeted, right? Because when we do that, and this card leaves the field, the monster that is summoned from this card gets destroyed. So I would tribute off my Maizen, summon something from deck, and then this card would get destroyed, and then the monster I summoned from deck would get destroyed. So you really don't want to be doing that unless there might be like a 1 in 1,000 scenario where it's something you would want to do, but most of the time it's a no. We have our 3rd replay here. An ideal setup, we have Hanzo plus Mitsu. It is an ideal opener. That gets us into our Maizen. We have our notebook. We have Debunk. So I've been talking a little bit about hand traps. This card is available from the structure deck and is really good into hand traps, but also hits other cards. For example, our Mitsu activates in the hand. So if my opponent had a Debunk and I tried to activate Mitsu, they would be able to use this card to stop that from activating. And those kinds of effects are very common. So this card can get a lot of mileage. And we go into our Geo. The reason I go for Geo is our back row removal is somewhat limited. This can target back row and destroy it, but outside of that, we really need the Geo's ability to destroy cards on the field. Geo plus the Iron Digger is your main back row removal in the deck. The Digger to deal with the last back row. Now, this is another thing you can do, is I know that I'm about to use these monsters and send them to the graveyard. So if I activate the Digger on a card that I know is about to hit the graveyard, this will also hit the graveyard and get back the card that I banish. Go for the Maizen. We get back Notebook, and we get back Mitsu. We see Alternative coming down. Me being familiar with the Alternative effect, I figure let's try and shut it down. Alternative can just destroy any card on the field. Does it need to be face up? No, any monster my opponent controls, destroy it. I could just let it go. Him popping one monster isn't that impactful, but I want to not let him do that on my Seeing a Silver Ninja, just in case it ends up being an issue. So I find a line to remove this monster. Now, Tabari has two effects. One of them is to discard itself, to special ninja from hand. But its second effect lets you, is this one here. During your opponent's main or battle, quick effect, you can fusion summon a ninja from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. Now, we can quick effect into our Maizen if we don't already have it, but the real strength is going for the other fusion, because this does something on summon. If this card is special summoned or flip face up, banish another ninja or ninja to a card from your hand, graveyard, or face up field, target a card and banish it. So being able to Dancing Leaves or Duplication into a Tabari can give you extra interaction on your opponent's turn. So this is our fourth and final replay. I had a very standard setup. It's Dancing Leaves, Notebook. I have a Space Typhoon. The Maizen was summoned from the Mitsu. So I see Zodiac, and I'm familiar with the strategy, so I kind of know what to expect here. I see that he's about to go through Zodiac lines, and I see that I have an opportunity to disrupt him. So we get our ninja on the field, go into Geo, and set his monsters. I see that he has an opportunity. He's found a way to another Zodiac monster. Any Zodiac monster kind of threatens the whole line, so I need to be very proactive and try and shut it down. So I'm able to use my resources, use my Tabari again that we saw in the last replay, and do our Armor Ninja line again to try and shut down his turn. From there, we were able to wipe his field. We were able to have a very commanding board presence. We were able to re-establish a very solid line of back row, even more disruption. So he's going to have a really difficult time playing into this board. Once again, we see a Zodiac. We really want to shut it down. And just like that, we were able to assemble lethal and go for game. Really good at just generating disruptions from very little, thanks to the back row. That's why when you're going up against decks that are very efficient at dealing with back row, those are going to be your harder matchups. But if you're able to utilize the back row effectively, you're able to go generate a lot of resources and a lot of disruption on your opponent's turn. And it's useful because it seems unassuming. A lot of opponents might be unfamiliar with the ninja deck, and they see one monster and 3 back row, and maybe don't think as much of it as they should. But it's a bit deceptive in the amount of interactions that are actually happening on that board. So that's one thing you have going for you. And that does bring us into gold, as I mentioned. Now, I do have a bit of a decision to make. The climb wasn't too difficult, so I do think that I could just make some upgrades to this deck and probably climb a whole other rank. Or I can go with my sort of long-term plan of transitioning into a different deck and using that for the rest of the climb until we reach the highest rank, being Master 1. I'm undecided about what I want to do, but I just want to showcase that we achieved our goal. We bought 3 copies of the Ninja Structure deck. We were able to make it progress through the ladder reasonably easily. It will take a little bit of time to learn the lines of this deck, but it's definitely doable, and I think that this deck can definitely go further with some upgrades. So I will just need to figure out which direction I want to go in, which you will see in the next video. I want to thank you so much for watching, and yeah, see you later.